This is the Gospel Revolution.
Since you're knocking on the door, you're begging to come in, yeah. Unaware that all the while love's been knocking from within. You are the love you see, a perfect yet unique, righteous, holy.
Here's the founder and president of the Gospel Revolution, Michael Lilborn Williams.
Hello, Daniel Thomas Rouse. I'm tired.
I didn't count. How many hours did we put out on this conference?
You know, we really should. I shouldn't be being tired at all. This was we cut this one short. We cut the last 3.5 years off of it. No, this one was, and I have to tell you, even though it was exciting, it was every line just was dripping with information. Even the 2 sessions that we did with Don, it's like we did those 2 sessions 10 years too early.
Yeah, my goodness. And, you know, as we sat and listened to it as we were doing the recording, we were just blown away at how well it fit.
Yeah, it was just, and that's why we could not refuse. Folks, believe me, we weren't looking for filler. That is for sure, as you'll learn on this show. And now yet it seems many more to come. As we have just continued to kind of see what fits in this framework. And I'm speechless after being full of nothing but talk this past week, but it's been amazing. People are understanding that we're never going to lose the gospel again to history. Mm-hmm. I think it's been lost several times to history. I think there's been precious, wonderful people, almost as precious and wonderful as us, who have had these breakthroughs into understanding this. The one thing we know, we've looked far and wide in every possible search to see if anyone's ever taught that the 1,000-year reign began at David at the cross. And there ain't none. It's just, so now we know what the problem was. Folks, in the GR, we found the problem. The framework was gone.
Yeah.
So everybody just started cutting and pasting and doing all of this crazy stuff. And we know they've done it at least 46,000 times. The Catholics, we don't even know what the hell they did. They didn't cut or paste. They just made crap up. But see, what they made up is the template from which all of Christianity has been working.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we're starting with is Catholicism. Mm-hmm. And 1,500 years of that. And somehow we're supposed to take that and redo the picture in the frame. No, you had to throw away the entire frame and find the framework. And we did it. We did it, Daniel. We did it. We fracking did it.
Yeah, we did 36 sessions of it so far.
Yeah.
And for those of you just randomly clicking on this podcast, you might be wondering, what are you talking about? Well, 2 things. We started last fall in our fall Grace Conference, a search into what is the 1,000-year reign of Christ. And since the fall conference, every week we have been coming in, looking at the 1,000-year reign of Christ, from King David to Jesus, the son of David, which happens to be 1,000 years. We'll get a little bit into those timeframes here in just a minute. But also, just last weekend, we released our 2025 spring Calgary Grace Conference. And guess where we're at? We're still at the 1,000-year reign of Christ. Mm-hmm. But, Michael, we got to give the Apostle Paul perhaps credit that he has deserved to have had and it's been missing for 2,000 years.
Yeah. You know, he missed it at first. He didn't miss What he missed was that he was called of God. He missed that he was blinded to the gospel deliberately until a specific time. Everyone was blinded to it while Jesus was teaching and preaching. We just can't find the place where his disciples got unblinded. They were all over the map. I'm telling you, when we did the show that I did, that you and I did, the thing that really caught me was our giving them their rightful place, not spoken by us, but spoken by them.
Yeah.
Who was James? We took the name and Mama gave him, and we let that speak for itself. And that name was given to him, not like today when, I have a wonderful Bible name, and Daniel, of course, has the second most wonderful Bible name. And I think there's more of us than there is of you. Everybody, that's not happening anymore. I don't know any young Michaels, though. It's going to become an old man's name.
Yeah.
Right. So anyway, going in and letting them speak for themselves. James the usurper, his mother gave him that name, and I have no doubt she asked God what to name him. Now, the question is, why would God want to name him usurper? You don't have one child and talk to an angel about it and then say, what's his name going to be? Well, his name's going to be and the angel tell you, and then you have another one, even though it's not by the same means, Lydia. Sweet Lydia, you just got it wrong, sweetie. You've been listening to your husband too much. Break out of that bondage. But they did not have the same father, but they had the same God, and it was the same Mary. And her life was very much orchestrated by God. And for you to tell me that you think that he got the name Jacob just because, I'm telling you, that's irrational. When everybody's name at the time was given for a reason that you can line them up. I'm wanting to do what Don did now and take this all the way down through the disciples and their names and what they meant. And then add, instead of James, do Jacob. And and AI strings those things together and takes those definitions, and it'll make up a whole paragraph or two for you of a sentence or a paragraph of what that would be if you put it in a sentence, just like Don did for us. And so this name of James, I think that should be, man, you shouldn't have to learn anything more about James other than that. And this, the power of knowing that all of his actions fit his name. We didn't come up with that. His actions did fit his name. And all the way through his life, even we have it recorded that what his family had to say about him before the cross. And they certainly had nothing to say good about him. Mary, her voice was completely silent during that time. I don't think when it speaks of his family, I think it's talking about his brothers, can you believe that an entire religion is built on a lie that Mary only had one child and that that Mary was born of a virgin also? You think we got problems believing in a virgin birth? Catholics have stretched this back. They've deified Mary. The only one that was a deity was Christ. Mary was not a deity. She was not born of a virgin. So there, we just lost all of our Catholics. But the power of knowing them, the power of understanding the disciples' true mission, true calling, and the ones who went missing by denial and by death. And this really got me. Finally, I understood, because we had done such research about the temple functions And I remembered, see, I didn't know what drawing lots was. I just thought that's, people playing dice in the back alley or something, But the drawing of lots was a temple practice.
Mm.
And that's how they determined which of the animals that they had. This was to be used on animals. And and the sheep, which sheep was the one God wanted, and they would do these lots, and that would determine which sheep was the one that God accepted was in the second. They did it to replace a disciple.
Bad.
Bad. And that system had already stopped working.
Yeah.
So the information you're getting is so remarkable, ironclad. You could go start your own religion with all this. I mean, it's amazing. But we at the Gospel Revolution have no interest in starting a religion, starting a church, starting a group. We are a group of thinkers, and that's really all we are.
And, hate to admit it again, but learning that Saul's name was never changed to Paul.
Yeah.
That from birth he had two names.
Yeah.
And actually, as the conference came out, we got a tidbit from Robert May.
Oh, that Robert. He's all the time doing it, and I absolutely love it. It's just like, dang it, why didn't I find that?
Yeah, he reminded and made the connection and we mentioned both of these things in the conference, but didn't make the connection.
No, just didn't do it.
That Saul and Paul, those were the two names that the Apostle Paul had from birth, but Benjamin also had two names from birth. He had Benjamin, and then he had the name that his mother gave him.
Yeah, son of my sorrows. His mother was dying at his birth, and at Migdal Eder. I mean, what are you going to do with that, folks?
Yeah,
this was at Migdal Eder, where Benjamin was born at Migdal Eder. Jesus Christ was born at Migdal Eder. You're not supposed to be born at Migdal Eder. Nobody is. Migdal Eder is a place for industrial strength lamb raising. Tens of thousands of sheep being watched over by shepherds, not because they love their little sheepies and all that. They stayed up with them because these were sacrificial lambs being raised. These ewes. Do you know what Rachel's name is?
No.
Ewe.
E-W-E.
E-W-E.
Wow.
So, and also Robert May gave me that one too. Dang it.
Wow, you can see that we could do another conference right now because the amount of information that we have accrued over the last several months is just it's a mountain, and there is so much. And this is what's the beautiful thing about this 1,000-year reign of Christ, Michael, is it's putting all these pieces together in the puzzle, and it's showing us why each character played the part that they played, why they were predestined to do what they did, and why this 1,000-year reign is a pivotal point for us to understand the Hebrew Scriptures and to understand the kingdom that has come. And, you were talking a little bit earlier about this framework that we have developed about the 1,000-year reign of Christ, and I think that's important for us to revisit and to understand that where are we working in when we say the 1,000-year reign of Christ? And what we had discovered as we had that moment of epiphany in your living room a few years ago is we asked the question, if the 1,000-year reign of Christ is not in the future, then at what point did this 1,000-year reign come to play? And if it was a literal 1,000 years, just as the 70 weeks of Daniel was a literal 490 years, and you say, hey, 70 weeks, 490 years, well, we explained that it's 70 sets of 7. it's very commonly known as the 70 weeks of Daniel, but it's literally 490 years with the 3.5 years cut off. If these timelines are precise, then what exactly is this 1,000-year period of time?
Mm-hmm.
And so we looked at Christ and we went backward from Christ 1,000 years. And that brought us to King David. And we've gone through the scepter of righteousness. We've gone through King David and the fulfillment of King David in Christ. We've gone through so many aspects of this to show that the 1,000-year reign of Christ is from King David to Jesus, who is the son of David.
It's the framework, like they used to say, it's the economy, stupid. It's the framework, stupid. It's the framework. Who puts the framework in place? We don't put the framework in place. God himself developed this framework of 1,000 years in which he would develop these things. Now, we have if Don could call James, which we now know what his real name is, Don always called him James the jerk. With Peter, I think I need to come up with a name for him. Peter the dummy. I mean, just goodness gracious. I remember 30 years ago realizing he had several encounters where he was told directly. And that every time it took him 3 times to get it. No matter what it was, It took 3 times.
Yeah.
Everything. It took 3 times. And then he still got it wrong.
Yeah, right.
in every situation. So he was definitely in a stupor. And we know that part of it was an imposed stupor, but I think he was just stupered anyway. So, and of course, Catholics are having chills go up their spine right now. But folks, we're in this because of Christ and Christ alone, not because of Paul, not because of James or John. This is the work of Christ. Paul just happens to be, not just happens to be, by design, was orchestrated by God before Paul was ever born. He is prophesied in the Hebrew scriptures. I read, I have already found more Hebrew text that's talking about Paul. And we not only can pick up and go just from where we are, we could go back and we could just keep teaching the second conference. This one that just came up. We've got so much that came flying at us simply because we taught on this. We've got so much of that is just coming alive. We can't open our mind, much less the scriptures, or do any research at all unless there's more. And if the Holy Ghost is a great teacher, he is having the dance of his life. Or at least the dance of 2024 years, because the best we can tell, this is the first time this framework has ever been presented to the planet.
Yeah. Wow. So if you haven't checked out this last conference, make sure you go to our YouTube channel, Gospel Revolution #1, and you'll find that playlist right on our page right away. And we titled it 2 different ways. We titled it with the session 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, but we also continued it in our 1,000-year reign, which was session 31, starting with session 31 and going on for 6 sessions. So make sure you check that out. Also, if you've enjoyed this content, we want to give a shout out to all of our Canadian friends who have sponsored this conference and have always been helpful. And this is also a time of year that we is really big for us as we raise funds for the cause that we're doing. And if you'd like to participate in that, if you're in Canada, you can go to graceconferences.ca. Vic brought to my attention that in one of the shows I had said .cc, and I apologize for that, but it is graceconferences.ca. And if you're not in Canada and you're on the U.S. side or other parts of the world and you want to donate, go to gospelrevolution.com and donate there. But if you're in Canada and you want all the tax benefits of making that huge monumental donation, then go to graceconferences.ca. You can give online there, or Vic's direct number is posted on there as well.
This is that point where that now we have gained, but see, folks, we're still trying to regain our footing just for our monthly contributions, and we're still in that situation where that we have to have these the funds, especially you guys are the one that got us used to it, and we always normally have about $20,000 to come in from Canada, and that has dropped quite considerably. And it's just been over the last couple of years, and it's really strange because our conferences are even more successful, and but we've got some folks aging out. We've got folks I know that used to give tremendously, and they've gotten to an age to where that their children have taken over their finances. And the children just like, no, we're not doing that no more. And lots of different situations. Goodness gracious, we've had people in the GR that have passed away, even calling me and letting me know, this is what's happening. Such gracious things, but very sad to deal with. I mean, these are people whose names I've known and called and spoken with for decades, and it's just that point of the history of the gospel revolution that so many of us that were young men and women at the time this all started, we are now getting on up in our years, and we've got to have this to be financially stable to be able to continue. I'm going to be honest with you, and this is where Don Bartlett would get mad at me. If we were broke, we'd still do it. You've just got to understand that we don't have enough sense to quit. We're not going to threaten you with what's not going to happen if you don't. It'll just make things so much easier if you do.
So again, if you're in Canada, go to graceconferences.ca, or if you're in the US or other parts of the world, go to gospelrevolution.com and hit the donate button. And a big thank you to all of you who've participated. Again, if you haven't seen the conference, go to gospelrevolution.com. It's posted right on our front page. That'll give you a link to the YouTube. Or you can go right to YouTube and look up Gospel Revolution #1. Michael, you get a kick out of this. You had said a minute ago about finding a name for Peter. I remembered that his name was also Simon. So Simon Peter, and Simon means to listen or to hear. And so then Cephas, Peter, means rock. So listen, hardhead.
Exactly. You listen like a rock.
The impact of what the understanding of the 1,000-year reign of Christ could do in this world, I think we're having a hard time expressing that. Because it really, as you said earlier in the show, Christianity is using this. It's using eschatology to build on. Yes. I mean, it's their whole foundation. If you took eschatology out of not just Christianity, but just religion as a whole, my goodness, the world would be a different place.
Sadly, all of Christianity and of course Islam, because Islam was developed out of a response to Christianity. That's why they carry so many Christian doctrines, including Christ. But it's a sad state of affairs, and I have to tell you, I got drawn to Christianity by this hook, and that was what's going to happen next. That is the whole thing as what you're explaining, is that Christianity is built on what's going to happen next.
Right.
And what didn't happen at the cross, that's going to happen in the future. Now, it's getting a little trickier now that it's 2024 years. we've just now passed another great milestone that was going to be the beginning of the end of the beginning. You never know which one they're talking about, but Y2K was the biggie.
Oh, yeah.
And that was driven by Christian forces. I mean, they got a hold of one little piece of information about the changing of the counting time of the computers. And it was not people that knew computers that was announcing this. It began to sound like it. Oh, the computers aren't going to know what to read. And we've talked to this and that. No, you talked to one other idiot, and another idiot told your idiot what their idiot ought to say. And we went through that and nothing happened. Mm-hmm. Absolutely nothing. And there were supposed to be nuclear bombs being launched from around the world. And I remember these things. And you know what I said before that? It's not going to happen.
And you know what was happening in my house? We had a bunker. We had a storehouse. We had gasoline. We had Spam. My dad loves Spam. So we had a Spam. We had ramen noodles for 1,000 years.
I mean, isn't Spam the Great Tribulation anyway?
Yes.
No greater sign than Spam that the Great Tribulation has started. So when you start out and the square you stand on is non-existent, how the hell do you think you're going to learn something from there?
My God, just think about that thought for a second. Just think about what Michael just said. If you don't have that thing to stand upon, eschatology, that's something that didn't happen at the cross is going to happen in the future. If you don't have that, what are you standing on?
And what doctrine have you developed from that?
Wow.
It's all been in relationship to that. You can't learn outside that square. And, at least they've got a couple of game shows now where that they contestants, they've had these over the years, but you stand on a square, and if you answer a question, you get that right, then you get to stand on that square. And then you get to guess of all the squares around you, which one is going to lead to the next answer. And then you take a step and it doesn't happen. Everybody uses that, right? I think they got it from me. Not happening. So, but that's what they've done. And so they've been on square one ever since.
Wow.
Or they've just accepted the lies that they learned from there on to fit the square they're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
There is, how much gospel is in Christianity? There is zero gospel in Christianity. There is zero gospel in Catholicism. There is zero gospel in Christianity. There would be more gospel in Buddhism than there is anything else out there.
Oh, you heretic.
I know. And why would you say that, Michael? Because they at least do not have a God in the sky waiting. They think that God lives in everybody. So that's more gospel than anything that Christianity has subdivided the world into. So does it cause great delight that we're the only ones that's ever done this? It does. But it also causes great grief that we're the only ones that's ever done it. I mean, I can see where Daniel could have figured this out. But I look at me and I think the whole world has to be stupid to be depending on me. I mean, goodness gracious, this is nuts. This is absolutely nuts. My history, everything about me doesn't have anything to do with what I do now. Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. I was in a wilderness of depression and suicide attempts and just like Ethan always describes to us about not able to close his eyes in the shower because a demon's going to manifest and having to say, forgive me, forgive me, forgive me, forgive me for every thought that came into his head because the mind is where the battle is, and Joyce Myers teaches that and gets millions of dollars a year for telling people the battle is in the mind. And and all she's doing is creating mentally ill people or taking mentally ill people and giving them something that gives them a false sense of management of their mental illness. And that can bring some peace. But the thing that happens with every false sense of management over your brain, false sense of management over your brain is going to bring huge disappointments because it don't work. I mean, just, try this out for one day. Instead of a lifetime, try it out for one day and just say, I am not going to think about white elephants the rest of the day. I'm not going to do it. Not going to do it. And then put little posts up around on your refrigerator, on your mirror in the morning. Remember, you got to put those little stickers on your mirror and then on the refrigerator. And then you get in your car, you got to, don't think about white elephants today. Try it first for a day. And when you see that it does not work, in fact, it's counterproductive, stop it. Don't take the next 40 freaking years to prove that it doesn't work. Just take one day.
I had the sticky notes on my mirror. I had the sticky notes on my fridge. I had the sticky notes on my dash in my car.
Yeah, I told people
it don't work.
I told people to do it. I just didn't.
Thanks. That probably came from you.
All bad things come from Michael. But now we've got a hold of something good. It's called the gospel. And
yes.
And how much of the gospel did I preach before? Before I started declaring the gospel of peace and the gospel of grace, I didn't preach any gospel at all.
Wow.
Nothing. I told people that I joined hands with people, come into my heart. Why? Why?
Because Jesus is coming back again.
Not only is he coming back again, but Revelation says, behold, I stand at the door and knock. He's talking to the churches. I remember when that one hit me, and that's been more than 30 years ago. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man open the door, I will come into him and I will sup with him. Do you know that's in the letters to the churches?
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was about salvation.
Oh, goodness. So what we see in the world around us, and I think this is permeated every aspect of life, is the mixture of eschatology, of a future return of Christ, a future manifestation of the kingdom of heaven. It has come in and has mixed into, or I tried to mix into science, into art, into politics, into every way of life. And Michael, we read a quote here the other day, and I wanted to share that. Eschatology is the driving force of a theocracy. And what happens is the reason that Christianity is involved in all of these aspects is because of eschatology, is because of some future manifestation. I love the way you said that, of what the cross didn't do.
The searching for a kingdom.
Yes.
And if you get that involved in a governmental system, you're headed toward a theocracy. Now, how many times does it happen once it gets in? It happens every time. And man, I'm telling you, I've been a history buff all of my life, but this history kind of blew me away. Every time, and it doesn't make any difference whether it's Islamic or what it is, once any religion joins itself to a society's government, both are coming down. Now, I can't tell you that's what's going to happen, but I sure can tell you it has always happened.
Yes, sir.
And the Constantine stood up and declared Christianity to be the religion of the Roman Empire. And guess what happened? The Roman Empire came down. Now, if you read The Rise and Fall of the Roman Empire, and you don't know by the time you finished that book that Christianity was the number one culprit for destroying the Roman Empire and itself, Do you know
Mhm.
the decline of Christianity that happened after after that destruction came?
Mm.
See, they it doesn't just destroy the system of government; it also destroys the Christianity or the religion that latches hold of it.
Mm.
So the what we're telling you is that there's a precedent out there. Now, let me reassure you that we at the Gospel Revolution have no interest in guiding anyone's politics. But if you think I'm going to stay shut up where Christianity is concerned, regardless of what they're doing,
Yeah.
I've done it for the last 30 years and put my neck on the line for it.
Mhm.
And I am still going to call out Christianity. It doesn't make any difference where they happen to move to, what they happen to latch onto. Christianity is the guilty party of the destruction of societies and civilizations around the world. They
Woo.
are not the key for the expansion of society.
Mm-mm-mm.
Good Christian people have expanded society. They've become doctors and lawyers and scientists and have done incredible things. And then we have on the other side of this not just Christianity that wants to prepare for another kingdom coming on this earth, an earthly kingdom. There is no earthly kingdom.
Yeah.
Jesus said, "My kingdom is not of this world." How
Mhm.
many times does he have to say it for it to be true?
Yeah.
And yet here we have Christianity. Why does Christianity want so much to control any government? Because it wants to establish the kingdom that is coming.
Woo.
So any price is acceptable. Any price is acceptable because you're ushering in the brand new kingdom.
Mhm.
So, as you look through history, don't be surprised at the lengths that they were willing to go to, even the death of their own.
Yeah.
The one thing that we found out by looking back through history is once Christianity or any religion, it's just like during the when Islam took over, and before Islam took over, there were Shiite and Sunnis. And after they took over, Shiites turned against Sunnis and Sunnis against Shiites. But
Mhm.
see, they together won the caliphate. That's what a caliphate is. A caliphate to Islam is a new kingdom to a Christian,
Mm.
right? So and it's the ability to come in and cause laws to be changed to biblical laws, not civil and social laws. They want the Bible to be enforced. Goodness
Yeah.
gracious, I thought about us playing this, but I can't stomach to do it. Uh, uh, we had a clip come across, and man, this guy, he's very clear. What was his name, Daniel?
Matt Walsh.
Okay, so we're not going to play this because it's just too sickening. But Matt Walsh is made it very clear what Christianity's goal is in his mind, and that is that he does think that all of our civil society here needs to be ruled by his Christian beliefs.
Mhm.
And so he's ranting against everybody that is breaking the laws of Moses. Tell me what's the difference between that and a caliphate, folks?
Yeah.
I've been supportive of either party at different times in my life. I am now a member of no party. I'm an avowed independent. There are still things that I think that the Democrats do better than the Republicans. There's things that I think the Republicans do better than the Democrats. And the other thing that we have to deal with is the pseudoscience of science.
Mhm.
Uh, Goodness, you've got the Christians who are saying accurately that God created the world, but then they've got Christian beliefs that are absolutely ridiculous. And then you've got science pushing back against a false presentation of Christianity because they can tell God's not healing anybody. They can tell God's not giving people money. They can tell God there are no miracles. We've looked in science and there are no miracles in science. So they take that and say, well, then that means there is no God. So our science has to prove there is no God. So to prove there is no God, you've got to come up with a pseudoscience. And we're having to try to inform people about science gone amok as much as we do Christianity gone amok. Well, Christianity is amok. It hasn't gone amok. It has always been. But science has gone amok.
Mm-hmm.
You take some of the most basic things. Let's. I didn't mean to go here, but let's take Newton's second law of thermodynamics. Yes, a high school dropout's going to teach you. So the second law, and don't expect it to all be exactly correct, but entropy is the point of the second law of the theory of dynamics, or the law of dynamics. The first one was developed by Newton. This one is Einstein. And Einstein developed this, and that's basically entropy is the point where fuel converts into energy. Now, there's that point, and that can be a high number, low number, whatever. But the entropy is measuring the conversion of a substance, a fuel, into another thing, energy of some form. So there's entropy. Well, entropy says everything that is involved in that system is going to burn out, right? It's always going to burn out, right? So what Einstein did is apply that to the frickin' universe. But there's a problem with entropy being applied, and the second law of thermodynamics being applied to the universe. The universe is not made up of oxygen. It's not made up of gravity. It's not made up of a system that we have here on this planet. And the second law of thermodynamics works here. But that's where they come up with, well, now we know all stars eventually burn out. And thanks for playing. But why did they have to apply that to the universe? Because that is the thing they use to say that it was not created. It is subject to the same laws that are here. And that is that this energy is going to do this and that, and this is how it works. Well, that's where the Big Bang Theory came from. Do you know the term Big Bang was actually an insult to people who were trying to prove this? And the guy said, "Oh, so it just all started with a Big Bang." So,
oh, really?
Yeah. So,
that's funny.
And instead of trying to come up with a term that was scientific, they said, "Well, we're going to have to almost agree with creation if we don't come up with some Big Bang." Oh, okay. Let's all go with Big Bang. So that's what they did.
Geez. Oh, kind of like Christianity.
Yes, absolutely.
Like Christian.
So science has turned into Christianity. Christianity thinks it knows science. And it's just a fracking free-for-all mess. And this is just one point of science. What the Big Bang says is that it all started at once, which is what they don't want to say. But see, they have to start it with an explosion because that is the core of the second law of Einstein's law of thermodynamics. If it starts with an explosion, that puts it outside of the creation zone. But guess what? If it started that way, then the second law of thermodynamics means all those stars are going to burn out, right? So they've evidently been burning out for billions of years. But you know what they don't have any record of? A star burning out.
Oh, wow.
It's like, where's all the cameras?
Right.
Now, they've watched stars go through changes, but they've never watched a star burn out. Never, It's never happened. So then they told us, well, the sun's going to burn out. Well, maybe not in our lifetime, but in a billion trillion years, it's going to burn out because the second law of thermodynamics rules the sun. How do you know that? It is not in the environment where we came up with the second law of thermodynamics.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't dwell in that space. So this is really weird how science, so science says that all of this started and will end. Do you know how they determine what they think about the evolution of mankind? They use another theory. And that theory says that everything has always been that way.
Yeah, that's counterproductive.
Yeah, it's like you apply one rule about this earth to denying creation, and you apply a whole different rule to the universe to deny its creation. You see, I don't care whether it's gospel revolution, us scientists, I don't care whether you're studying rabbits or what. If you have a confirmation bias, if you're trying to prove somebody wrong, we're not trying to prove anybody wrong. We're trying to find the freaking truth. And if that makes me wrong, and folks, anybody that says, oh, you guys are just on there to prove everybody wrong, we'd say yes, because we prove ourselves wrong more than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel's going to have to go back in this show and take something out, and you're never going to know what it was that I said wrong.
But the fact is, he was wrong.
I was wrong. And it comes off my tongue a little easier than Don Mark. We didn't mean to give you a lesson on Einstein's second law of thermodynamics. But actually, that second law of thermodynamics was probably Newton. See, I'm telling you, I know enough to be dangerous. But what Einstein did is apply it to the universe. It's frustrating. And so then you have people that we're dealing with trying to change their mind about Christianity. And then they say, yeah, but look how screwed up science is, and we can't disagree.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not trying to prove science over Christianity. We're telling you that there is truth. And
Yes.
Truth can only be had when personal gain is not the goal.
Mm-hmm.
It's the only way.
Yeah.
If you need to be healed, you'll never find truth.
Mm.
And because you're going to start searching for it spiritually. If you need finances and you start turning to spirituality instead of a financial advisor, which you got to be advised about financial advisors. My first broker, I realized that his title meant he was going to make me broke. So I did get broker by using a broker. So, but I've learned myself now, and I know, and I'm pretty good at handling money. And but the facts are, folks, you've got to think. Please just think. And we're not telling you that Republicans are good and Democrats are bad or vice versa. We're telling you Christianity involved in any government. Now, Christians, Muslims, anybody. Why are people upset that a Muslim has a place in the Senate? You know why? Because they know what Christians do with those positions.
Mm-hmm.
They use them to try to push their religion. If we were defined well enough as a nation as to what these positions are, they're positions of service, not power, not authority. These are positions of service. If you're the president, you're a servant. If you're a senator, you're a servant. It doesn't make any difference. If you're a dog catcher, you're a servant. We all fit in the same category of service, not authority, not power. If authority and power become the substitutes of servitude, if power and authority become the substitutes of servitude, then religions are going to try to get in those positions to exercise their religion over you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we've had presidents that were Catholic. Nixon was Quaker. Nixon was Quaker. And to what degree they tried to exercise their religion in their office, other people may have done research on this. I don't know. But the fact of it is, you should be able to be a very strong, believing member of anything and hold a seat in a position of service in government, as long as your allegiance is to the Constitution and not to your religion.
Mm-hmm.
When you stand up and declare openly that you want a seat in a position you think is a seat of power, if it's service, you see, your religion doesn't apply because you're there to serve everybody. But if it's authority, you're going to try to take the rules and laws of your religion and impose it on everybody else.
Mm-mm-mm.
I don't care whether you're a Democrat or a Republican,
Yeah.
or independent, or what's the other one? I can't even remember.
Yeah, and even in a kingdom, if you're a king in a kingdom, a lord in a kingdom.
Yeah, it's all fraught with these terms, power and authority, which Jesus put it all down.
Mm-hmm.
He eliminated those positions. Even when they came to him, James and John's mother came to him and asked him, who could her son sit at his right hand and his left hand? And he said, and here's something else that I learned that I've now can't bring to remember. Robert May's going to have to tell us what it was. Robert teaches me so much I can't retain it. So anyway, she responded to them and said, it's not given to know such things. However, if your sons are looking for a position in the new kingdom, which is not still yet to come, it came at the resurrection.
Mm-hmm.
He said there's only two positions open in this kingdom, and that is servant and slave.
Mm-hmm.
And Paul is, Paul's the only one that really proclaimed, yeah, I'm that servant, I'm that slave. He said he was a slave. He said he was a servant. And the other disciples, the disciples seem to be looking for places of power in a new kingdom because they wanted to judge the 12 tribes. They wanted to judge. They wanted to be over. They wanted to, the Mormons give you an entire planet to rule over. What's wrong with us, folks?
Yeah.
Have we lost the concept of constitutionality?
Mm.
Have we lost that concept so much that we now would try to embrace religion? Not the Christian. The Christian individually has every right to be in a position as anybody else. But I do mean anybody else.
Yeah.
Why are Christians so afraid that someone who is Islamic, that is a threat to our democracy?
Mm.
Why? It's not because of what they know about them. It's what they know about themselves.
Yeah.
And we know why we're trying to get in there. So you must have exactly the same goals. And they very well may. And under those circumstances, I would say that person that is a member of Islam should not be in a position of service in our government. But neither should a Christian who is trying to enforce the laws of Moses and the laws of Christianity on the people instead of a constitutional democracy and to be able to live in this republic. So there we are. That's our politics. Our politics has nothing to do with party. It has to do with we're sending out the alarms, folks. History tells us that when Christianity becomes an integral part of deciding what the rules and the laws are on all of society based on their beliefs, they are both coming down if they are successful.
And as we have done our research in the 1,000-year reign of Christ, I'm specifically thinking about the dream that Nebuchadnezzar had about all of these kingdoms. Now, I have to say that during the 1,000-year reign, all of that was predestined.
Yes.
That they would rule and reign with Christ.
Yes.
So there was a kingdom establishment. There were empires
Yes.
established that were predetermined by God.
Yep.
But that time has come to an end.
Oh, thank you, Daniel.
And when did it end? It ended with the mixture of iron and clay.
Yep.
And let the mixture of iron and clay be the message of history to every empire, every nation, every tribe, every tongue, every kingdom, that it doesn't work. And what is that? That is the Roman Empire trying to mix in with their religious belief.
Yeah.
And that would be the Jewish people. This intermarrying of the two to try to make something work. And what happened when that took place is all of these empires crashed.
Everything.
Before I went to Rhema, Michael, I did Lester Sumrall's Bible school. I did a couple years of correspondence with his school. And one of the classes that he had, and the title is really a great title, Jerusalem, where empires come to die.
Wow.
And why is that? Because every time they tried to mix religious views to try to uphold a kingdom, an empire, or whatever it may be, what happened is it fell every single time.
But it brought Jerusalem down with it.
Exactly.
And that's why this happened time after time. Ever since the feet of iron and clay, I'm going to ask you to listen to Daniel Thomas Rouse so clearly. Please accept its template. Please accept its instruction. Please accept its the reality of its understanding. When you try to mix government and religion to be the same thing, government and religion can operate right beside each other.
Yeah,
they can, and we've done it. But they cannot operate together as one. It can't be done, folks. And if you are advocating for religion, now I don't care what branch, it's amazing. See, all of Christianity comes together to get, I'll prophesy the future for you. So let's say that this works. Let's say that Christians, Catholics, Pentecostals, Baptists, they all come together to get this done to integrate Christianity into government. You know who their biggest enemies are going to be once that is done? Each other.
Yes, sir.
That's what history tells me. Now, I may be just totally out to lunch, but just like with the caliphate that we told you about, that the Shiites and the Sunnis, they were one people. They had different perspectives, but they lived together. But once they joined together and defeated the government, then these people turned on each other, and they've been against each other for hundreds and hundreds of years. So we're telling you there's a pattern to this. It's not just a pattern. It was a prophesied pattern that came to pass. And now those patterns still operate the very same way. It's diabolical. You say, well, what we're looking at is these places like communism where they outlawed Christianity. Well, there again, folks, it collapsed because it's not the expulsion of one and the acceptance of the other. It is the coexistence of both is the only functional way. There is no functional way for one to get rid of the other. There is no functional way for them to be together. The only functional way is for them to exist side by side, free of each other.
Michael, let me just go through a list here, and we won't go through all the details of it, but just let me list some of the empires that this occurred in. And this is history.
Yeah, let's look at it.
The first one, the Roman Empire and Christianity in the 4th and 5th century. You mentioned Constantine earlier, that Christianity,
Yeah.
and that was, guess what happened?
Yeah.
It fell. The Byzantine Empire and religious control. And this is from the 6th century to the 15th century. This empire's decline was hastened by eternal religious conflicts. You mentioned this one too, the Islamic caliphates, the 7th through the 13th century. The weakening of the Islamic world in the face of the European expansion and the eventual fall of the Ottoman Empire.
Mm-hmm.
And we have Rome just didn't learn their lesson, did they?
No,
because they did it again. Charlemagne, Holy Roman Empire.
Yeah.
The Crusades and the religious wars, 1095 to 1291. Pope Urban. The Spanish Inquisition and the Catholic monarchs,
Wow.
1478 to 1834. The English Reformation and the Church of England, 16th and 17th century. The French Revolution and the Catholic Church, 1789 to 1799. And more recent history, Nazi Germany and the Church. I mean, speaking of the 1,000-year reign,
Yeah.
I mean, that's what Hitler built his whole thing on.
Yeah, he built it on that imagery of the 1,000-year
Mhm.
reign.
Yeah.
Lasted 12 years.
And of course, we see some of this in recent history with Iran and even some of these recent Taliban, Afghanistan terrorist attacks that happened even here on our soil.
Yeah.
What was that all fueled by? Religion.
Yeah. Well, and the thing of it is, Daniel, is that we don't see what we've got to do is look back at history. So when the Taliban takes over a government, hooray, we won, forever settled, right?
Hmm.
Never is it settled.
No.
Because then they turn on each other. And then the people begin to say, no, not me. And the next thing you know, the next guy. I mean, look what just happened in Syria. This absolute ironclad person that was there was supported by many regimes around the world. And gosh, all it took was time. And he's gone, and somebody else is there in power.
Yeah.
But the swings, if you get these things going together at the same time, if religion and government become one thing, its time is limited. Now, people have wondered, we have the longest lasting democracy at this point that's ever been on the earth, I think. I'm not sure how long the democracy in Greece had an experiment with this too. But I think we're the longest lasting one, especially on this scale. And its validity and its power has been that we've operated very well in what there's two people I got to point out here. Charlemagne's my 37th great grandfather. But the fact of it is, if you are European descent, there's a 50-50 chance Charlemagne is your 30-something great grandfather. The thing that I'm finding out in my exclusivity is that I'm not exclusive at all. I'm just part of half the whole world. You know that if you are from the East, the possibility of you being a descendant of Genghis Khan is like 50%.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's just survivability after somebody, a strong man takes over. And because those families are protected, those families, and they're the ones, if they stay in power long enough, but you got to leave real quick, just at the right time. So if you are a descendant of all of this, what I call the cesspool of Europe, of royalty there, if you're a descendant of that cesspool, you're only alive because your ancestors left there at the right time. And that's basically or they hid in the right place for a long enough time. Folks, this is never a good thing. What we're trying to tell you is what has eschatology done in its rejection of the 1,000-year reign? You see, we can't just teach you about what happened during the 1,000-year reign. We must also teach what's happening because of a rejection of the 1,000-year reign.
Mm-hmm.
And every eschatological movement, everybody that thinks Jesus has got to come back again, everybody that thinks a kingdom is going to be established on this earth, that this is all the things. It's not the people, it's the doctrines that are dangerous. And I have watched wonderful people turn into almost monstrous persons because it's just like being a parent under that system. What happens to many parents under that system of Christianity? They become abusive.
Mm-hmm.
They become abusive. And many of them, in the name of religion, have even killed their own kids.
Yeah.
I mean, and yes, a mental illness is many times involved, but Andrea Yates listened to, her pastor was a man who spoke in my church. And Andrea Yates drowned all 5 of her children. But she listened to what we had taught. And this man came and taught in our church. I remember getting kind of the creepies when he was there. But I knew something was not right, but I had no idea at the time. But he was her pastor, and she killed 5 of her children. Her reasons were that the age of accountability, that she saw that her children were beginning to rebel. And if they reached the age of accountability and got killed in a car accident and hadn't accepted Christ, they would go to hell. So she murdered them so that she would make sure they went to heaven.
To play devil advocate in that, it's kind of logical.
It is.
Based on what she was taught.
Oh, she's the most, one of the most loving mothers on planet Earth.
Mm.
You're talking about, did she suffer? Yeah, she suffered, but she'll suffer only in this life. Her children would have suffered for eternity.
Yeah.
Based on what she was taught.
Right.
By me and by her pastor.
Mm. Mm-mm-mm. Jesus said, don't look here, don't look there for the kingdom of God. Look within.
There you go.
We have seen the rise and fall of empires. We have seen presidents come and presidents go. We have seen dictators come and dictators go. We have seen kings come and kings go from the 1,000-year period, the 1,000-year reign of Christ and on. We have seen all the rise and fall of all of these. None of them were outside of the kingdom of God, but none of them advanced the kingdom of God either. Because our kingdom included all people of all walks of life, of all belief systems. The kingdom of God that God establishes an eternal kingdom. And there's nothing that we can do today to change that. What Jesus did on the cross was a final work. He's not moving in kingdoms today. He's not moving in governments today. He's not shaping this constitution or that constitution. He's not working through a supreme power and authority. He lives in every man, woman, boy, and girl.
Yeah.
That is the kingdom of God. Now, when we understand that, whatever kingdom or government that we are living in is not impacted by that kingdom.
Yeah.
And vice versa. As Michael said, the way for these to both exist is to exist side by side without crossing that line at all.
Yeah. Solid Walt, my 9th great grandfather is the one who came up with this. I actually have to tell you, he actually learned it from a man by the name of Moore in England. But he is the one who trumpeted this separation of church and state. And there's a lot of people in my family that they know he's they know he's our ancestor, but they don't like what he stood for. And he was the one who coined this concept of a separation of church and state. And that is Roger Williams. He is my 9th great grandfather. And he started Rhode Island. And Rhode Island and Providence, Rhode Island. Just look it up, folks. I don't have to tell you any of this stuff. Just Google, Chat GPT, whatever your search engine. The power of his concept and understanding of this separation allowed him to start a town called Providence. In Providence, there were Jews, Islam, Christians, Pentecostals, Catholics, all knew that if they came to live at Providence, that they would be guaranteed by Roger Williams that they would live free from molestation from others. And they lived side by side. That's the true template of America. And but he knew the only way they could live in peace together is that they did not become an integral part of trying to put their views on everybody. Now, let me say social change also on the other side of this. You cannot force social change. And we've got a lot of folks trying to do that. You cannot force. Social change comes because society changes. Society changes because it gets the right information. But you cannot force society to change. You can't force society to accept because there's a backlash to that also. So now let me say this to all of our friends. I know some of you have your cockles up a little bit from listening to this from both sides. I've offended both sides. And we've also offended science. Dear Lord, is nobody off of our radar. We talk like we're scientists. We talk like we're professionals. And we're neither. But we do have the ability to look at something simply and say, is this functional? What we're telling you, that when science tries to prove there is no God, it becomes non-functional.
Mm.
When it tries to prove there is no such thing as creation, it becomes non-functional. When it tries to prove uniformity, it's the thing they used here to on Earth to try to say that, everything has always been the way it always has been. Therefore, we can measure the changes along the way. When they out of the same mouth say that things aren't always the way they used to be. So the conflict is within itself. We're only pointing out, we're not creating the conflict. We're only pointing out the conflict that is there in science, in Christianity, in government. It doesn't make any difference where it is. But the acceptance and you just can't force change, folks. You just can't. There's a lot of things I'd like to force change on, but I can't. And I hate the term tolerance, but it's also a functional word until you get to the point to where you accept. But we must insist on tolerance with each other. Now, I'm not going to be close friends with somebody who tolerates who and what I am. If they tolerate me, they can't be close to me because they will never have my best interest in mind. And I may have their best interest in mind, but they're never going to have mine if they're tolerating and just trying to be nice instead of embracing me, who I am and what I am. Not everybody's going to. I accept that. I'm not out to try to force people to accept Mike Williams and who he is in the package he comes in. I mean, that's not going to happen. But I do know who to have as friends. Well, I have friends in the Gospel Revolution. I am so proud of this. They are wonderful people that I rely on their information and how they give me feedback about the gospel. And they are from all walks of life and political persuasions. Now, if you think the Gospel Revolution should be supporting any particular party or group or way of governing, I'm telling you, you're gonna hate the other half of the Gospel Revolutionaries because it's really weird because it's about 50-50. 50, I think.
Mm.
And but I love all you guys, and I really do. I think you can tell when I'm on the phone with you, and I am on the phone with people from the absolute extremes of all situations. And the weird thing is that these folks, all, you see, I trust them, and I know they don't just tolerate Mike Williams. They embrace Mike Williams, regardless of their views, political or whatever. They embrace me. Therefore, I embrace them back. Now, I will tolerate you, and you can tolerate me if that's what we need to do. But we cannot fall into what the eschatological views of Christianity want. They want us to fight.
Mm-hmm. Yep, we are not here to establish a kingdom. We're here to pronounce that the kingdom has already been established.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? The whole world are citizens of that kingdom.
Isn't that incredible? Yes, the big picture always wins.
Wow, Michael, this is amazing. This could change history. This understanding, if we could remove, imagine that. If we could remove eschatology from the world, what would it look like?
Yeah. That's all we're talking about here, folks. We're not talking about your political beliefs or persuasions at all. I respect every one of them. What we're talking about is the catastrophic involvement of eschatologically persuaded people, and that the rules and regulations that are formed by a government are going to help bring forth that. No.
And let me remind you, as we close out in the very way that we started, that the 1,000-year reign started with King David and ended with King Jesus.
Yes.
And it is done. It's over. It's finished. Jesus finished the work on the cross. He's not coming back to finish something that he just started. He's not coming back to button things up.
Yeah.
It's already been done. He came back. He bought us. He renewed us. He made the new creation, and he established his kingdom on the earth. Heaven and earth have become one. This is not something that needs to happen. It's something that has already been done.
It's happened for everybody you like and everybody you don't like.
And so it is, we must leave you, family and friends. If you'd like to know anything about the Gospel Revolution, then call our office on
832-318-9339
and speak to us about how you want to participate. If you're in Canada and you still want to participate in donating for the conference, go to graceconferences.ca, or if you're in the US or other parts of the world, go to gospelrevolution.com and hit the donate link. You can find us on your favorite social media network, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Make sure you head to YouTube and catch the latest conference, Gospel Revolution 1. You're going to enjoy it. Please be sure to hit that subscribe, share, and like button on whatever platform you are listening. Now it's good night from Daniel Rouse in the still frozen tundra.
And the sad thing about it is that it is going to be that officially right through July. So, and he's not lying, really.
Nope.
So anyway, guys, we do love you. We ventured out a bit here, but we had to cover this material, not on politics, but on this eschatology that is trying to get into everybody's government around the world.
Yeah.
Right now, that's what's trying to happen. And there's some characters around the planet that they don't have any interest really in the religion itself. I mean, gosh, I've been looking at what's happening all across Europe, and some of those guys, they don't. You can tell they don't have a dog in the fight at all. It's just going to give them power. That's all.
We sure hope you enjoyed today's Powercast. And remember, you're stuck with us even again next week. But we're going to come back and do it all over again, only
better.
Since you're knocking on the door, you're begging to come in, yeah. Unaware off the wild love's been knocking from within. You are the love you seek, a perfect yet unique, righteous and holy. Yeah, yeah, yeah. When you feel lost and alone, staring at the unknown, and these words be the compass that guides you right home. We are one, we are love, we are. Know where you gotta be, nothing to complete. It's not a thing that you need, you're the love. Just remember to breathe and take a second off. Look, I'm just trying to remind you that you're perfectly divine, flawlessly designed. When you feel lost and alone, staring at the unknown, let these words be the compass.
Deconstructing religion and barbecuing the sacred cows of Christianity before your very eyes. You are listening to
The Gospel Revolution.